As you might know already, Dalux InfraField can help you to visualize all your GIS information that you have on site. Today, I'm just going to give you a deep down of how you can access that information, how you can change the styling, and also how you can use that information to do some work on sites by using the metadata of this specific street light that we have here, and also how to bring information on site into the subject so you can do some analysis after work on the computer or back in the office. So let's get to it. The first things I'm going to do is go into my app, and as you can see here, I already have a layer turned on. But just to show you how to do that again, you click on this button, click on the GIS option. I'm going to select my electricity folder, and I do have here the light bulb for this specific section. Here, all the dots marking the locations of these street lights are going to pop up, and if I click in one of the objects, I can access to all the different properties that I do have here. As you can see, there is information about the specific location, so the north and the eastern. You can also see the ID, the voltage, and if this specific element has some warranty or not. So all the information is accessible, but as you may see here, all these are represented by dots, and it might be easy for me because to identify because I know the layer, but my colleagues on site might have some difficulties. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try changing the styling, so when I look into this layer, they look more like lipo, so it's easy for me and my colleagues to identify these elements on site. So let me get back into the computer, change quickly the styling so it's more attractive for people to see on site, and we'll get back here in a minute. So we've just been outside looking at the GIS for the light post. So what I want to do now is change the styling. First, I'm going to turn on the layer here. I'm going to open the same as before, my electric folder. Yes, so as you can see here, it's the same set of data. It's the same metadata that I showed you before on the phone. So I'm going to change this to be in plain points, to be something that actually looks like a light post, and also change the color so it's easy for me and also for the people on site to identify this layer. To do that, we're going into settings, we're going to the map, and from here we just find the GIS, the same folder as before, and here we go. Here you will need to click on the styling button and change it from, we're going to do a single color, but we're going to first change the symbol. When you click on that, we have a depository of different symbols that are normally the things that are used for regular drawings. So there are symbols that you might find in any kind of either survey drawing, architectural drawing, or structural drawings. We try to add as much as we can from those. And if you go down a little bit in miscellaneous, we have something here that actually looks like a light bulb, so we're going to use that. Also going to adjust the size to be a little bit bigger than normally is, and I'm going to change the color to orange just to make it a little more brighter, and I'm going to also change here the opacity. I'm going to save that, and if I close this, now you can see the light posts or the points I've changed in the icon. I'm not satisfied with the site itself, so I'm going to make it a bit bigger so everybody can see them. Perfect. So here we go. This has been saved. So if I go back to the location modules, and you can see now the layer, all the different light posts now look like light posts, and all the metadata is still there. So now we're ready to go back on site and do the checklist that I talked before. Great. So now, as you can see here, all the light posts in the GIS layer now look like light posts, so it's more identifiable. They're easy to identify for me and all the people on my crew on site. What I'm going to do here is start doing some checklists to just check if the status of this after all the work that we did. So I'm going to click on this specific object. I'm going to create a light post check that is already here in my options. And as you remember before, we talked about all the metadata that is what's contained in this specific element. As you can see here, normally those templates are going to be empty, but since I have a configuration where it allows me to access within the template, allows me to configure that, so if I have a match in the metadata of this specific object, the template is going to fill out automatically given the metadata of the object that I mark. That's why the name, the ID, the height, the voltage is already filled out. So it's easy for me and the people in crew to save time by filling out the information, just reading the metadata of this object. It's work like GIS, but you can handle it as like any BIM object that you will do in a regular project. Another information that is relevant here is the site information. So I know that since I have some different zones in the project, I know which person I need to contact if anything happens here. And since we're working in a linear project, I do also have the PK or the changes for this project for the location of this specific element. So what I'm going to do here is just filling out the points that are still missing for the checklist. So the inspection is going to be today. Is the element visible? Yes, it is. And this asks me, this specific field on the checklist is asking me to take some pictures. So I'm just going to take a picture of the light post here. Perfect. I'm going to go back to the main menu. For the general condition, everything looks perfect for me, so I'm just going to keep it as perfect. I don't see any visual structural damage, so I'm going to put that as a no. There's no sign of correction. There's no knots. The foundation looks pretty stable, so I'm going to put it like that. And there's no missing covers or anything, so it's going to be a no. Perfect. As you can see, there's a lot of relevant information, especially about the general condition, that might be relevant to have a kind of an overview of the different status of the element here. So just as we read information from the object to add it to this checklist, what I'm going to do here is, giving the configuration of my template, I'm going to also put or give those status as the new metadata for this specific element, so you can keep track of all of them as soon as we're doing this information on site. So I'm just going to complete this here. I'm just going to remove all the checklists from the filter. Perfect, so I only see the elements. So when I click on the element again, now if I go back to the properties, if you remember the properties that we saw before, it was only onto the warranty. Now you can see that the information about the general status is already being added from the checklist straight to the object. So let's see how we can use that information back in the office in a useful way. So we're back in the office after all the work and the registrations that we did with the street lights on site. So now I will show you how to see the data that we push from the registrations into the GIS layer and how we can do some analysis with it. First of all, I'm going to go to GIS, open my electricity folder, and open the same file that I showed you before, or that we were working before. Here you can see that the styling keeps in the same place, so the color is the same, and also the street light looks like a street light on the GIS layer itself. Gonna click on one of the elements, and now you can see that aside from the metadata that was at the beginning, now you can see two more regarding the structural damage and the overall condition. So now I can start doing some filtering and also some colorizing by using this data. If I go to filter, add filter, now you can see that these two new information are here. If I click, for example, in the structural damage, any structural damage are now visible, so that I can filter in relation to that. But I can also do a coloring analysis, so by using the colorize tool. So I click in that one. In this case, I'm going to use the overall condition for that. So I'm going to click this, and let me remove the filter, otherwise I won't see anything. There you go. So now you can see in different colors which one are in good condition, which one's poor condition, and all of this information is coming on site. So if you have people working on the field, adding information to these different layers or different elements, you can have a live update all the different progress, all the different elements depending on how your template looks like and the information that you're getting directly from the construction site. So there you have it. This is the way we analyze information that is coming from on-site and involve or pushing it to the GIS layers. Thank you.